Now that we have made our project, you may notice, like mine, that you have some giant blank areas that you'd like to fill in. We will look at a couple of ways of doing this to kind of fix up your project. The good news is you don't need to redo all your text if you don't like how this thing looks. You can definitely fix it up to make it work. First thing that we can do is we can take the letters that are currently here. We can actually make them a little bit wider. The way that we can do that is if you go back to where your text was, grouped and then merged all into one layer, and we do that select pixels again. The key is we can't right click over here, we have to be right on this picture. I'm going to right click and do select pixels. That's our selection that we used, if you recall, to create this mask. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit wider. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to select, modify, expand. A good number to start with is just 2 pixels. What this is going to do, now you'll see a change on yours. Now on mine, I won't see it because I already done this. If I zoom in, you can see my selection still matches up, but if you zoom in on yours, it's not going to match up. In fact, let me just do mine again now. You wouldn't do this part again. I'm doing this because I already done this with a class right before I made this video. I'm going to go to select, modify, expand, and again, you've already done this. I'm going to go 2 more pixels. Now if I zoom in on mine, you're going to see that's what yours looks like when you zoom in. There's a little bit extra to this selection, which is basically what we did. We just moved our selection out 2 pixels all the way around. Now I could increase that number, or I could just do what I just did and keep increasing that selection by 2 or 3 or however many pixels until I get these letters to where they're as thick as I want them to be. Now I haven't changed the project yet, I've only changed my selection. To modify the project, what I want to do is I want to go to this mask and I want to do edit fill. Now the reason I can do this, we're going to fill in with white, and our selection is pretty much the exact same as what the mask was. It's just a little tiny bit bigger. So when we fill this in with white, it expands that text ever so slightly. So now if I do Command D to get rid of my selection, I can see the fish, and that's a little bit better. Now mine still has some giant blank spots, so I can fix that too. So here's how I can fix that. For right now, I'm going to disable this layer mask. So I'm going to right click on the mask itself and go to disable. Now I can kind of turn back on the words to see where the blank spots are. And let's say I need to fill in up here. I'm going to repeat that text process like I've never did this yet. So, again, you wouldn't be writing fish or the same word over and over again. I'm doing that just for the sake of saving time. Same as before, I'm going to rasterize that type. So again, it really is just I'm doing that part that we already did, just an additional time. And what I'm going to do now is Command T. I'll rotate this thing. I'll resize it. And I'll warp it. So it's just, again, it's that whole process, just additionally again. Get that exactly how I want it. Let's say I really spent some time on this thing, and now I am happy with that. I press enter. So this new layer that we created, I want to add that into this mask that I already did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-enable that mask. For the sake of making this easier to look at too, I'm going to turn off that text from that larger group. And then you can see here's that fish that I want to add into this mask. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this new layer that I just created with my text, right click, go to select pixels. Now go to the mask, and again, if I expanded these, I might as well expand this one even before I start, just to kind of make it match the rest. I'm going to do select, modify, expand, and you would type in whatever you typed in before if you did this part. Now remember, that part was optional depending on if your letters looked like they were too thin or not. So now that my selection is ready to go, I'm on this mask. I'm just going to fill that portion in with white. Currently, this part of that mask is black. I'm filling that chunk in with white, and when I turn off this text, you can see it filled that part in. So again, I can fill in any parts that I need this way. Now if this kind of gets annoying to look at as you add more and more words, I just keep throwing these into my backup folder in case I ever need them for anything. So that is another way that I can kind of add to my project to kind of increase where I'm at. Now let's say I look at this and I don't like one of my words. Maybe I didn't like this initial fin. I can also go back with my brush on my mask and paint black for any of these that I happen to want to get rid of. So if I do this bigger, and I could paint away a word, I'd make sure I got this entire word. I'd probably go with a little bit bigger brush. So let's say I get rid of this whole thing. Then I could then type a new word again and kind of repeat this process. So I could disable this layer mask for a moment, assuming I needed to. And I could do a new word or whatever if I didn't like that one, just like I went through with you a second ago, and then I'm going to add that to this mask again. So that is how you can kind of modify. So again, two things we can do. We can use our selection and do select, modify, expand. And then the second thing that we can do is just add to our project by adding more words. The way we do that, same process as adding words before, but instead of doing what we were about to do here to this entire group, we just do it to those individual words and we fill that mask in with white in those spots.